my friends and fellow travelers. I'm on the Indian Ocean and we are here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This morning I'm standing by my apartment 5 kilometers south of the Colombo city center in an area called Mount Lavinia, known for its beautiful sandy beach with the backdrop of the city just over there. It's also got nice beach bars, and this is my building right here. That being said, this is not a video about me drinking a beer on this beach. This is a video of us going and exploring the center of Colombo to tell you everything you need to know before you go, to give you the practical information and historic background to make sure that you have an excellent trip in this beautiful tropical island paradise with really good food. If that sounds good, let's get Sri Lankan. As we always do with these videos, let's start with a little historic and geographic context so we can get to know where Colombo is a little bit better before we go. So Sri Lanka is a big island that sits to the south of the Indian subcontinent. It's got about 26 to 30 million people, depending on how you're counting it, so a lot less populous than India. There are definitely Indian traits here. It definitely feels like it's from the region, but it's very, very different than what you expect India to be like in your head. Colombo is the only true metropolis on the island, the biggest city by far. It's where the capital is, it's where all the stuff is happening, and it's where all these cultures historically mix. And Sri Lanka has a really interesting story. So let me tell you about it while we walk around the beautiful fort area, which is arguably the oldest and most historically important part of the city. So the story of Colombo starts at around the 8th century, when this area, sitting at the mouth of the Colonial River, became an important trading hub for the peoples living here. The city got the name Colonto, meaning literally city at the mouth of the Colonial River, and from there it became a trading hub that would only bolster in size over the years. In the 1300s, the city was annexed by the Kingdom of Kotte, which was the largest Sinhalese kingdom. The Sinhalese are the native peoples of Sri Lanka, and it became a trading hub for basically anybody stopping through this spice island that was on the direct route between Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. So you're talking Chinese, Indians, Arabs. They were all coming through Sri Lanka, bringing things, trading things, religion, culture, all that stuff. This was a big mishmash place. Then came the time of colonialism by the Europeans. The Portuguese came here in 1505 and they stayed until the mid-1600s. The Dutch were then in control of it for another 100 years, building forts around the island. The island was really ruled by the Dutch East India Trading Company. It became a spice island for colonial exploitation. Then the Dutch lost war to the British. It got turned over to the British. And then Sri Lanka, after the British Raj and British control of this region fell after World War II, became its own country. Because of that specific history, when you go to Colombo, you see all the layers of the people who have been here. So I'm in the fort region, and in the fort, you have modern constructions, colonial constructions, you have a mosque from the Arab traders who of course brought their religion. You've got some old buildings clearly built by the British when they were here. You've got, disrepaired colonial buildings, either built by the Dutch or built by the British. You have cathedrals that were turned into mosques, cathedrals that were turned into Buddhist temples. It's just such a mix of people, and it all happened here in Colombo. The people now who inhabit this city are fourfold. They're the Sinhalese, the people who are originally from the island, the Tamils, who originally come from India, who are majority Hindu. The Sinhalese are majority Buddhist. Then you have Muslims and Christians. You have the Burghers, who are basically the children of native Sri Lankans who had kids with the Dutch. It's just a big mix, and that left an impression on the people, the culture, the food, the sights, the smells, the sounds, the whole vibe. And the last thing that I'll leave you with is that Colombo is actually not named after Christopher Columbus, which I totally thought it was when I arrived here. Apparently, Colombo is named after Colon Ambatota, which is the original name of this area, Colon Amba, Colombo. So I think it was just easier for the Portuguese to say it, so they stuck with it. So this is the fort, this is the whole area where the history is, but now I want to take you to more of the practical information on what you're gonna find here, because history is only as good as the sites that you see in the country. So let's get into the more practical information. Transportation in Sri Lanka. There's many ways to get around in Sri Lanka, but the way that's, I guess, the most fun for foreigners is taking a tuk-tuk. These are like the lifeblood of Sri Lankan transportation, and they're actually really affordable. You can go about like half a kilometer for 50 rupees, which is about like 30 cents, 20 cents. And so every time I get in one of these, if I'm going somewhere close, it's about $1. If I'm going somewhere far, it's about $4 at the maximum. So the transportation for the uninitiated in Colombo can be a bit overwhelming. When you're in the tuk-tuk, you're like in the streets. And this road I'm on is called Gal Road, and it's very busy. You'll see many tuk-tuks, many cars. People drive pretty crazy, but it's honestly not that bad. I've been in countries that are more overwhelming. Be aware that sometimes like these streets, they'll be a bit polluted feeling because a lot of the cars are old, and a lot of the buses, they have that really like, you know, like that gas coming out of it because they're from like the 80s. So it's always an adventure. You can rent, of course, tuk-tuks. They have two different apps. You can do Pick Me, you can do Uber. I always do Uber. It's a lot easier than having to barter with people on the street. And then you can, of course, do cars. And then if you want to take buses, you can. Colombo also has a train system that runs through it. If you want to go old school, the train is less than $1. Most Ubers from point A to point B are less than $3 to $4. So it's very, very affordable, the transportation in Colombo. So let's talk visas. Getting into Sri Lanka requires an e-visa for most countries. You can also do visa on arrival, but I would definitely go the e-visa route. It's pretty easy. You just go to their online portal. I think you pay like $50 US, you get 30 days. And then if you want to stay longer for some reason, maybe you're doing a longer tour, maybe you want to do some expat life stuff, you need to basically apply for a second 30 days, and sometimes they give you all the way up to 90. So not terribly complicated, not terribly long either, but don't forget to do your e-visa. Link in the description if you guys need that. And now we transport to Gal Face Green, or Gala Face Green, depending on who's pronouncing it, which is basically what modern Colombo is. It's a large green space right in front of the seaside, with the port and the old fort that we were just at in front of us. And it's a place that defines, I think, the future of Colombo. You can see huge skyscrapers, large infrastructure projects, like crazy buildings like this. You also then have the old colonial buildings that you can see here. And then you get into the greater Colombo that way, which is a mix of developing, developed, and honestly a bit underdeveloped. What I'll say is that modern Colombo is straddling both worlds. There's definitely money here, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's penetrated the greater society. They have a lot of new things. They have a brand new mall, but I think the majority of people live very simple, humble lives, and the amount of cash that's being thrown around by locals is quite small in comparison to the obvious buildings and infrastructure that's being built here. I think a lot of this, this kind of stuff is probably out of touch for 95% of Sri Lankans, but the quality of life here has been improving quite a bit over the last 30 years, especially since the end of the Sri Lankan Civil War. So I just had my driver drop me off in the region of the city called Petta, which is right next to the old fort. It's the only part of the city that reminds me of India that I visited, where it's crowded, it's busy, it's loud, it's a little bit dirty, but it's just kind of like interesting. There's just like a lot going on. So in this area, there is basically a big market that's nonstop. People selling, hawking, trading, whatever, probably for the last like 400 years. You find some interesting colonial buildings in here, and honestly one of the coolest mosques. So from here, I'm going to tell you about the cost of this city, because why not do it in the place where you trade money and do stuff. You know, I've spent nearly a month in Colombo so far, and I have to say this street feels like the least representative street in some senses of the city. It's an island country. People are like chilling and relaxing. I think people take it real slow. And it's weird that it's so busy here in some sense, because it doesn't really match the experience that I've been having living here. So let me tell you about the prices. Colombo in general is very, very inexpensive for Western travelers or from people from countries that make reasonable salaries. You can eat for about you can do $1 for breakfast for sure, and then you can eat it at a restaurant basically a local restaurant for between $1 to $2, and you can eat at a, you know, kind of like a fancier restaurant or something nice for between $6 to $10. Kind of depends what you're doing. All of this stuff in the market, like if you wanted to eat at this little stall right here, they're selling things for $120, which is about 30 cents. If you really want to eat like a local, walk like a local, shop like a local, you can do it really, really cheaply. Hotels and stuff in Colombo can range between like $20 for something not so great, and then if you're spending like $100 on the coast or something, it's really, really nice. Like the quality's really nice. So I think everywhere here you have like the full quality of, you know, of I guess the modern world and the old world kind of mixed together. So you're gonna have to remember, again, like most people can't access the fancier things here, which is, you know, not great. Obviously it's not a good thing, but it's the reality of like, if you want to do really cheap, you want to stay in a hostel, if you want to do something super local, you could, and it could be extremely, extremely inexpensive. Or you could do something like more fancy, stay on like a fancy beach resort, all inclusive, and pay upwards of, you know, $150, $200 a night if you're doing something really fancy that's owned by like a foreign company. The cool part about walking around Petta is that this is a really, really old region where a lot of the religions mix. You'll see a lot of Islamic traders here, people who are connected to the mosque, and there are a couple mosques around here, but there are also large Hindu temples and then Buddhist temples in the area, because this was the place where actually the Dutch colonial authority used to live, and since then it's turned into this very packed, very busy shopping district where you can buy basically anything that you want so far as you can walk through the place. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Just as a secondary note, I think Sri Lankan people in general are extremely friendly. They're one of the most smiley peoples that I've seen, outside of maybe the Thais and the Vietnamese. And there's definitely like the advantage that they speak English here, you know, not, it just depends on the person, right? But like reasonably well, so that you can communicate with basically everybody to some degree, at least with the basic numbers, when you're haggling, all that good stuff. As I make my way to the central market of the city to talk to you about the food, and it's a really intense experience, let me tell you about the scams that you're gonna find here, or things that you need to worry about safety. This, again, is way busier than normal. I don't feel uncomfortable at all walking around here. Obviously, if you're a woman traveler, you obviously would maybe feel different. But people seem really nice, really friendly, really helpful. What I will say is that depending on the price of things, you're probably gonna get scammed at least one time by someone, or they're gonna overcharge you for something. So obviously none of this stuff has prices on it, which is totally fine. The toot-toots also have no prices, but there's ways to prevent it because obviously everyone speaks English. So just be firm with the price. If you don't think it's a good price, don't buy it. And honestly, if you're taking transportation, I just always take Uber or Pick Me, because I don't want to haggle every time I hop into an Uber or a taxi, because obviously, like with my face, I'm going to get overcharged regardless. So anywhere else, I think you're going to be fine. Just if you are haggling, stick to your price and feel good about it. To my favorite section, which is food. The food of Sri Lanka and that of Colombo is a story of the movement of people. Hello, my friend. And I haven't been to the Petta market, but here it is. Big covered market with a lot of local products in front of a church, probably built during the British times, if I had to guess. And basically what you're gonna find is that, number one, Sri Lankan food is really, really spicy. They're a very spicy culture. It's up there with Thailand, with Mexico, with, you know, parts of India. It's just like everything here is spicy. And they have a beautiful array of ingredients. So instead of telling you about them, why don't we just go see what this tropical place has to offer. So we've got beautiful pineapples. You've got all the tropical fruits. Lots of berries, mangoes, watermelon, and then you get different spices. And it's very famous here for this Sri Lankan roasted curry, chilies, all that good stuff. And then you've got, of course, the typical Sri Lankan produce, which is like cassava, very popular here. You've got eggplants, different sorts of root vegetables. Hello. And then like this is banana flour, you've got tomatoes, you know, like I think this is just a place where everything really grows. So you have the ability to have these beautiful things, you know, like curry leaves, you've got fresh lettuce, you've got you know, nice onions, different people selling different things. It's just such a wonderful view. Here you have Scotch bonnet peppers. I mean, I actually haven't been in this place. This is amazing. This is much better than the supermarket that I normally go to. This one is, of course, all of the dried fish products that you find here, and it's very popular as a way of preserving food, drying it. Just, you know, really walking in here, man, I'm sweating. It's also 35 degrees today Celsius, maybe like, what would it be, almost 100 degrees with basically 100% humidity here. It is so, so hot. But the food, all of these fresh products come into some of the best curries that you can find anywhere in the world. You know, they rival that of India, obviously, and that of Thailand. Beautiful curries, beautiful different dishes. They use coconut. These are fresh hulled coconuts here. They use those in a lot of desserts. It's just like when you come to a place that has so much growing potential, such arable land, such a place of trade, you get such a beautiful amalgamation of all of the delightful vegetables, fruits, things from the sea, things from the land that you can possibly have. And I think that is pretty cool. Hello, friend. Hello, my friend. How are you? Wow, if you want to experience every sense that your body has to offer, go to the Petta Central Market. Smells, sounds, so much to look at, so much beautiful food, lots of good smells, but then you have the fish on top of it. It's just like very intense. So let's go to the restaurant. I want to sit down, I want to eat something local and tell you about coming to Colombo. There is the Petta Market. I'm at a place called Golden Cafe. It's like a veg restaurant. The guy's sending me upstairs because they have golden AC. We'd love to see that. By the Petta Market, there is a large Tamil Muslim community, so I ordered a South Indian lunch for about $2 US. This place was fully vegetarian, and they hit you with 7 ridiculously delicious curries, a huge amount of rice, and just a ton of flavor. The point about eating in Sri Lanka is that anytime you're sitting down, whether it's at a hotel, which is actually what they call restaurants, or someplace that's like a formal restaurant, you're gonna eat really well. The food is spicy, delicious, and super satisfying. 100? Okay. I'm incredibly full. I'm at the train station, and we're gonna finish this episode up with a quick tour of how you can travel here a little bit. All right, just got off this train. It started to get really full. I think it's rush hour and people are going home. But the best part is that it just goes right along the Indian Ocean in a very, very beautiful way. So the train is old, it's a little bit bumpy, there's no air conditioning and it's over full, but at least on the way home, you get a beautiful, beautiful view. So I think that's gonna do it for me in this video. I would say that a lot of people come to Sri Lanka, but they skip Colombo or they spend like half a day here. I would say that this is a really interesting city. It's got really good food, really nice people. It's got very interesting culture, but it just takes a little bit of finesse to get in there. So as I always say, get in there, go travel, go do it, make it happen. So with the train moving behind me, with the beautiful sunset golden hour happening, I will say thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like these travel guides. I'm going to do a big interior trip in the center of Sri Lanka soon, and then I will do a huge southern India trip coming in December, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to check out my Project 197 Tastes from the Past that's happening over on Instagram. And again, if you want any travel consulting about a trip here to beautiful Colombo, please hit me up in the comments or directly on my email. Thank you guys for watching. Travel safely. See you in the next one.